Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America. Thank you for joining us on the program. Website thisweekinamerica.us. Back with us on the program, Dr. LeslieBeth Wish, a nationally recognized licensed clinical psychotherapist, honored for her pioneering work in love, career, happiness, and success. The National Association of Social Workers put her on a list of the 50 who have contributed to the profession. She's the author of several self-help research-based books, Smart Relationships, The Love Adventures of Almost Smart Cookie. Her surprising findings inspired her to co-write her next book about intuition, something we've talked about and we'll probably talk about again on the program today, one of the cornerstones of happiness and success. Your story about listening or not listening to your intuition, by the way, could be featured in her next book. If you go to the website lovevictory.com and click at the top on intuition, your story may be shared with other people. The website, once again, lovevictory.com. Dr. LeslieBeth Wish, welcome back to the program. It's great to have you with us again.
Thank you. I am always happy to be here. You ask such good questions, and I know that they will all help your listeners and viewers, so thank you.
We get excellent response when you're with us, and the topic today is going to be wedding proposals. And this is really interesting because about every other day you see something where an over-the-top wedding proposal, something a little bit different. It gets the attention on YouTube and all across the country. Let's first of all talk about the concept of wedding proposals and how important they are. Some people give them a lot of thought. Some people are like, oh, by the way, would you like to get married type of thing. How important is the actual proposal?
Well, think of it as one of the many rituals that you hope to have in your relationship over time. You know, rituals are not just things that you have to do or should have. These are that have emotional glue. They bind you. They're sort of like, where did you go on your first date? Where was your first kiss? How did you meet? And families that are strong tend to have rituals, like how to celebrate someone's birthday or a holiday. So it's very important. It's part of the, as I said, that emotional glue that keeps you together. And it creates that ground floor for always making sure that your interactions are warm and loving.
So in the back of your mind, what you should be thinking, I need to create a positive memory. This is going to be something, maybe 30 years from now, somebody will ask, how did you propose? How did that happen? So you're really trying to create a memory, a very special time.
Yes, and it's a memory and it's a connection. And when the going gets rough, you know, one of the things that people find is helpful, and it's something that people in the mental health profession recommend, is that how did you fall in love? Find that memory, that feeling, that emotional experience of how you connected, because it keeps you in a positive mindset. It keeps you feeling that there's still a strong love attraction and hope. So this is all part of why rituals are so important. So your wedding proposal, your marriage proposal is very, very important.
Dr. LeslieBeth Wish, our guest on This Week in America. Her website is lovevictory.com. A lot of great information at the website, as well as information on her book, Smart Relationships, as well as the book, The Love Adventures of Almost Smart Cookie. Talking about wedding proposals, should you test the waters ahead of time and sort of determine if now is the time? Again, this may go back to this whole intuition, where you as the guy decide, okay, I think we're moving in the right direction. This is the next step we should take. Test the waters before you actually propose.
You should test the waters for many, many times. You know, television shows and those, romantic movies where they go out to dinner and the guy puts the engagement ring in her champagne glass, or, sticking out of the frosting on the cake, and the woman goes, oh my God, I don't recommend those kinds of engagement experiences. You should be able to talk about where you both want your relationship to be, how it is. You should have solved all kinds of problems, or at least address them. Where are you going to live? Who moves in with whom? Are you going to take his name? All those things. Are you going to continue working? Are you going to cut back on working? What about children? What about moving closer to each of your parents? Who's going to be living with you? Are there stepchildren? Are there in-laws? All those things. What religion are we? Are we going to care about religion? And if we are, what religion are we raising the kids? I mean, there's so many things to address. So the notion of a surprise pop the question, that would be really scary, because that means that maybe you haven't done your homework.
How much preparation should you put into the actual marriage proposal? So often you think, okay, if I get the words out, will you marry me? That's it. Should you sort of practice and go through exactly how you're going to approach this? Because again, it's a memorable moment.
It is. Put some thought into it. And, maybe practice isn't the right word in terms of, because that conjures up an image of people rehearsing,
Right.
And maybe in front of a mirror, which is not a bad idea if you're really nervous, but try it out in your heart and in your mind. What do I want this to be like? How do I want this to be? It can be a very scary step for a guy or whoever is doing the proposing. So it's important to think about it in advance, because, again, it's going to be a very important memory and a ritual.
Dr. LeslieBeth Wish with us on This Week in America. Her website is lovevictory.com. We're talking about wedding proposals, how to go about it. We were talking about some of the over-the-top proposals, and you're saying that's really sort of misspent time and preparation, right? That more about the actual act and the thought and the meaning rather than the theatrics of what you're going to do.
Well, think about it this way. Oftentimes, the nature of the proposal will give you a lot of information, emotional information, about the person proposing to you. So for your listeners who can't see my props, I'm holding up a trophy and a huge medal like you get at the Olympics that says winner on it.
Yes.
Okay? So just if you are listening and not watching, think of these two images, a trophy and a badge that says the winner. These are over-the-top types of proposals. You see on television with the skywriting, at, baseball games or the football stadium, will you marry me? Or someone whisks you away in a carriage and picks you up at your house, or you see horses running past your house. I had clients who had a horse running out in the middle of their street and looked out the window, and the horse had a huge banner that said, so-and-so, will you marry me? These are way over the top. And why do they give you warnings, potential warnings? They are announcing any or all of the following things. I need to be important. I need for you to see me as your knight in shining armor. I need to be in charge. Or the flip side of that, I need really to be loved. I feel really importantly needing to be special. And we all have needs to be important and special, but make sure that you have a gauge. Ask yourself, is this going to be a signal of how much emotional giving I'm going to have to do, or how much emotional appeasing I'm going to have to do? Put that thought in your mind and watch your behavior to see how well you collude with that, because that could be a big warning sign. That over-the-topness, that part that makes you feel like this, I'm now holding up these firecrackers and I'm waving them. Think of, fireworks on the 4th of July. Is that what you want? Your name written, in the fireworks? Do you want a horse-drawn carriage? Do you want the biggest diamond in the world? I mean, is that what it's about? Be careful. Be very careful about thinking about the signs that might be sending you about how your relationship might establish itself.
We've talked on the program before, and Dr. LeslieBeth Wish is our guest on the program. Her website is lovevictory.com. Go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly. On past programs, we talked about really the observational skills that you need, and sort of sit back and watch how the person you're dating is responding. And you can learn a lot just by watching them. Is that something we should carry over? And we learn a lot, if I'm understanding what you're saying, in the whole idea of how they're going about the proposal. We continue to learn about them. So at this point, you don't drop your guard. In fact, you've talked about awareness lights. We should keep those on during this process.
Yes, keep those awareness lights. That's a great phrase. Your intuition are your awareness lights, your backup lights, your headlights, your side lights, your mirrors, your buzzes, bells, everything. And I'm not saying that if your proposal is written in the sky, will you marry me, that you're going to be unhappy. But just put that thought in your mind. Is that a signal that I should be aware of being swept away, overwhelmed? Am I going to have to be on the pleasing side or on the applauding side all the time? So that would be an over the top. And what kind of situation would make a woman turn off those warning lights? I'm now going to hold up 2 props. We'll start one at a time. I'm holding up a fortress like you'd see in a castle.
Yes.
These are think of turrets and a stone wall and a moat. So many women wall up their lives after they've been hurt in love, and they live behind that wall, or they live just to work. I'm going to hold up another prop, and they become, this is my busy bee, all work and no play. I'm going to pull the buzzer on it. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can from my end.
Barely, but yes.
I'll do it again.
Yes. There we go. We can hear.
That's a busy bee. So if you are all work and no play, or I'm going to hold up my fortress again, if you have spent your life hiding out from love, and these are the 2 images that kind of depict where you've been very hurt or led a quiet, simpler life, and you're getting older now, and it's lonely in that castle by yourself. Maybe you're worried about what's going to happen in your future, or maybe once again you're just that busy bee. Well, then those over-the-top proposals where the trophy comes and you get that badge that says winner and the fireworks go off, that could signal that you might be giving up too much. You might find 18 months or 2 years or 5 years down the road that you didn't want to be little orphan Annie and be so grateful that someone took you out of your sheltered or closed up and limited world. Again, I'm not saying that over-the-top proposals are bad, but just put those thoughts in your mind to be aware of.
You can find the video version of our program, by the way, by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. There's a YouTube link there, and you can go look up the programs with Dr. LeslieBeth Wish. Also, the past audio programs are there as well. Is it possible, we talked about over the top, is it possible that a proposal can be too underwhelming and create some problems?
Oh, yes, and that's the other extreme. I think of extremes. That's really important. You want to be somewhere in the middle, and what would those be? I mean, it could be anything. It could be going out to your restaurant that you went to the first time you went on a date, or the first place you went on a date, or the first place you met, or the first place you kissed, the first place you said, I love you, or the first time you were physically intimate. That would be personal meaning. Those would be great places for proposals. But sometimes proposals can be underwhelming. It's the equivalent of getting a little box of chocolates, well, I don't want to sound greedy, but this didn't feel very special, and gee, it's well past Valentine's Day, and oops, I think the expiration date is 6 months overdue, So I've had clients tell me that their fiancé-to-be proposed to them while they were driving down the highway, to go to a party. And the guy said, I've been doing some thinking, would you marry me? I mean, that doesn't feel very special.
Obviously, he hasn't been doing enough thinking.
No, that's right. Or I've had couples propose to before they go to bed or on the phone, good night, see you tomorrow. And I'm thinking, will you marry me? That's too timid, too uncertain. And you have to ask yourself, why is it so underwhelming? Is this person unsure? Am I not special enough? Are we going to have low emotional communication in our whole system once we get married? These are all things to think about.
You're listening to This Week in America. Dr. LeslieBeth Wish, our guest on the program. A few minutes left, and let's talk about how the relationship changes after the proposal. You mentioned before all of these decisions. You've got pressures from family, from friends. You've got financial pressures. He may want a big wedding. She may want to do something a little more intimate. How does the relationship change? No longer it's just this sort of staring at each other's eyes and they're madly in love. Now you're going to make that next step, and you've got some decisions to be making, and you're on the clock.
Oh, definitely. That's why I recommend that after you've gotten engaged, stay engaged for a while. Don't just start planning the wedding, because then you are distracted and you're not hanging out together. There is a big emotional world of difference between dating someone, falling in love with someone, being exclusive with someone, and even moving in with someone. All those things are, in one basket. It is a big difference between that basket all the way going to an engagement. So once you're engaged, the emotional ante, the emotional importance goes way up. And along with that are all your fears and defenses. So as the relationship becomes more important and it rises in terms of importance, your fears, your doubts, and your defenses rise. So now is a chance to get a better picture of what your life might be like as a couple. So don't cloud that information. Don't dim your headlights, as you said. Watch what's going on and give yourself time to be together instead of spending it planning away.
Are there periods of doubt? Topic we could probably do a whole show on. We've only got a couple minutes left in the program. Are there periods of doubt that you go through? And is that natural? I'm assuming as you talk to people, you get some that are like, wow, am I doing the right thing? Because again, you've made a major decision, and a lot of people feel like once you go through the proposal process, you really can't turn around at that point.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's the equivalent of walking down the aisle and you have really screaming doubts, and you wonder if you could be one of a handful of people who say, stop, like they do in movies. And people do that. I know people who broke their engagements within 3 days of the wedding. But why do those things happen? Because the doubts were very high. They really rose. And there is a difference between serious doubts and jitters and just feeling kind of concerned. Concern is low volume, low intensity. Concerns are, where do we live? They usually are tied to an issue, not how you are feeling about that person. And if you do have doubts, then postpone it. Even cancel that wedding. And I wish I could give you a magic number of intensity, as if you're feeling a 9, cancel it. If you're feeling a 4, cancel it. Everyone is different. It's sort of like, at what point do you know how deep that water is that you can't easily? And every situation is different. So if you are having doubts, ask yourself these questions. Have we known each other long enough? Do we share common values and goals? Are we fighting a lot? That is one big red flag. Are we having kinds of disagreements that, we just can't settle on something? Do we spend more time being angry and talking about our feelings rather than just being a couple? Do our parents not want us to get married? And what are we doing about that? Those are all things to think about. And finally, have we known each other long enough to know what we are like in good times and bad? Because that will tell you a lot.
Great information. I'm going to take 30 seconds here. Is there such a thing, if somebody is listening, or we know somebody that went through the process and they tended to be on the underwhelming side, where it's like, yeah, you're right, that really wasn't creating the best memory. Are there redos? Can you go back and maybe change that?
Definitely. You can say to your fiance or spouse or wherever stage you're in, look, I know that you were concerned that you couldn't buy a ring, or I know that you were going through a lot in your family. Let's have a redo of our, and some couples do that even after they're married. I have to say that it's important to do that. It won't 100% erase that memory of the first underwhelming engagement. But nonetheless, do it. Do a redo.
Dr. LeslieBeth Wish, our guest on This Week in America. Always a pleasure to have her on the program. Much more we'll talk about in future programs. Her website is lovevictory.com. Her books are Smart Relationships and The Love Adventures of Almost Smart Cookie. Dr. Wish, thank you for joining us. Excellent program today. Thank you for being with us, and look forward to having you back in the program.
Thank you again. It's such an important topic, and I always appreciate being on your show.
We love having you with us, and we will do it again. Once again, our guest is Dr. LeslieBeth Wish. Her website, lovevictory.com. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on directly to her website. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. This Week in America.